All your favorite wrestling shows rolled into one. Welcome to the WeBookit podcast. Let's start the show.
It's time for the fallout from NXT Deadline that was nothing short of remarkable. WWE television has been on fire, especially on the NXT Black and Silver brand. Listen, NXT tonight is the fallout from Deadline. This is your Who's Next with NXT show, Tuesday Night Delight, brought to you by, powered by the WeBookit Network. So with that being said, I am your host, Virgil, your current booking world champion. Let's get right down to business. Guys, listen, we have so much to talk about because we have a brand new NXT champion. His name is who? Oba Femi. That's right. We first start the show off with seeing a recap of NXT Deadline. Next thing you know, Oba Femi makes his entrance and gets on the mic. He talks about being a two-time NXT champion. He says this is true power, and NXT was not the same without the ruler on top. So the universe did what it does best and found a way to correct itself. And so he reclaimed this title. And now he's done with Ricky Saintz. And at Saturday night's main event, he'll face Cody Rhodes and he'll look in his eyes and he won't see the future. He'll see the now, the ruler, the destroyer, the bringer of war in all his glory. And now he has to talk about the end of the show and then enter in none other than absolute Ricky Saintz. He wants to be the first to congratulate Oba on his prophecy fulfilled. His bag is lighter because Femi did exactly what he said he'd do, and that's why he shook his hand, because he's a man enough to admit that Oba was the better man at Deadline. On the drive home, he started to think about what's next, and seeing Femi with the title really makes him feel like that was it. He'll never have another chance to regain that title again. But then he remembered he's absolute. And if you think he's going to bow down and fade to black, you got another thing coming. He's going to come for what's his, and he's going to steer it back on course. And remember, it's 1-1. So we gave Oba his shot, and he's demanding his rematch for the NXT Championship. And as great as that match sounds, enters in next Javon Evans, who is your 2025 Iron Survivor. He won't lie, he didn't mean to interrupt, but he's been watching Deadline over and over and over again. And like what? The young OG survived the Iron Survivor Challenge, and because of that, that means he earned an NXT Championship opportunity at New Year's Evil. But then he's wondered, why wait until January to have his match? He's on fire. He's locked in. He's ready, and nobody's going to dictate his moment. So if Oba's picking up what he's putting down, he'll have his title match tonight. That's right, tonight against Oba Femi. Femi shakes his head, and Ricky asks what's the rush if he's on fire and having all these great matches, and he pitches Evans on waiting until he gets his rematch so he can have their match. Javon says that's why he's doing this. All he ever hears is, "Are you sure, Javon?" But he's not the future. He's the right now, and he doesn't need the stars to line up. He'll line themselves up. He doesn't mean to be cocky, but nobody can touch him at the age of 21. Not on AAA, not on Raw, not on SmackDown, and not on NXT. So Oba is the man he has to beat. And if anybody gets a match tonight, it's going to be him. Saints is sold, and it says it's time. It's his time. Shakes his hand and tells him to go get his. Femi asks if these two titleless guys are really going to call the shots, but Ricky cuts him off and asks if the ruler is really going to back down from a challenge. Evans says he's scared as hell, and he knows the young OG has his number. Femi says he's not scared. Every time they've locked up, he's won, and tonight will be no different, so game on. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful segment right there, setting up tonight's match main event, which is an NXT Championship match. Shawn Michaels once again in the kitchen cooking. It does suck for Javon Evans because as you can probably guess, there will be no shocker. Javon Evans will not win the match. Now, how he loses the match, we'll talk about that in a bit. But at the same time, I mean, like I said, the young OG is young and confident and cocky and a little bit out of his league in this because Oba Femi is a man amongst boys in NXT. Next up, we get a video package detailing the history between Jordan Grace and Kalani Jordan. Then we go to break, back from commercial break, and we get a video package talking about John Cena's longevity and the breadth of his career. Next up, we get Tatum Paxley coming out. She cuts a promo about how Izzy Dame did, in fact, destroy the version of her that was before, and now she has nothing to lose, but Izzy does. Paxley gets out Sean Spears and Nico Van's dolls and continues saying Dame stabbed her in the back just because she didn't want to play her game. But now they're going to play her game, and she's going to take care of Vance and Spears. And then it'll just be the two of them alone together. Not going to lie to y'all. 10 out of 10 on the creepy spectrum right there between what she had to say. Tatum Paxley is definitely on one of the weirder girls, but listen, it is what it is. Next up, we got Kaylani Jordan versus Jordan Grace. These two have locked horns multiple times in NXT. They even locked horns for the TNA Knockouts Championship when Kaylani Jordan was TNA Knockouts champion. I have mentioned on multiple occasions, I really do believe it's time for Jordan Grace to be called up to the main roster. If you weren't going to let her, if you were going to use her as a doorstep to bring in Blake Monroe and let her win the NXT North American Championship and not give her that belt, and you obviously aren't going to give her the NXT Women's title, and she did not win the Women's Iron Survivor match. I appreciate the fact that you're giving her these chances in these matches, but I'd rather see her on the main roster. She is a little bit older than some of the other females, so it would be cool to see her finally get her shot on the main roster and not be stuck down there. Her and Kaylani Jordan had a great back and forth match that got really, really physical. And it ended up with Kaylani Jordan winning by pinfall with the 450 splash. And then after that, we see Blake Monroe getting up from the makeup station, and we go to break. Back from commercial, and Jordan Grace is in the locker room complaining about how she can't even beat Kaylani Jordan. Thea Hail rolls up to give her a pep talk and tells her to not doubt herself. Grace scoffs at getting advice from a 16-year-old. Thea says she's actually 22, and since she was here since she's 18, it's actually kind of a grizzled vet. And Jordan scoffs some more as Thea runs off to try to answer Blake Monroe's open challenge. Blake Monroe makes her entrance for said open challenge and gets on the mic. She talks about how the roster looking up to her as something of a role model and says she finds herself in a giving mood and wanting to give back. So she's being the ferocious competitor she is. She's hosting an open challenge. And without further ado, we will see which lucky lady gets an opportunity of a lifetime. After that, the locker room literally, y'all, empties out. Every woman you can imagine comes out. And like I said, and Blake Monroe is looking like, what the heck? And she begins to shriek at Ava Rain. Next thing you know, Thea Hail from behind hits her, puts her in a double wrist lock, and Monroe taps and she runs out of the ring. So this was a really weird segment. Not really sure what they wished to accomplish here outside of, I guess, Hale being able to run around and say that she made her tap out and that she actually deserves a real match because she made the champ tap. So I'm sure she'll end up being able to get a match. We also could be seeing Jordan Grace turn heel, y'all. We could see Jordan Grace be the one to cost Tia Hill the match, setting up a little grudge between these two women, which I would not be mad about. So, but that was just weird that they didn't do a match. They called it open challenge, then she didn't do a match. She literally got attacked from behind and somebody made her tap out. I don't know. We'll see what they have in store. Next up, we have Shiloh Hill being interviewed backstage. He talks scientifically about the biochemistry of nervousness and says he's ready to whoop Lexis King's ass. And we go to break. Next up, we got Lexis King versus Shiloh Hill. I think there's so much potential in Lexis King, y'all. I like his look. He has one of those different types of looks. I think that he's somebody that can absolutely be a main player on the main roster. I think he's a stud. We'll just see what he ends up doing. But he did end up losing this match to Shiloh Hill, who won by pinfall with a back suplex dropped into a neck breaker. Next up, we see All Ego Ethan Page walking backstage to send us to break. Back in commercial break, and we have Oba Femi being interviewed backstage. He says, when you're champion, you learn to expect the unexpected, but the end result tends to be predictable. He hopes Cody Rhodes is watching tonight because he knows that Javon Evans is all about, but he has no idea what the ruler is capable of. He asks Cody who's going to carry him when he puts him into the ground and says he's going to break Javon Evans and then break Rhodes on Saturday, which, by the way, in case you did not know, in John Cena's final show of his career. John Cena will be facing um Gunther in that match to kick off the show. However, to close the show, you will have the WWE champion against the NXT champion. That's right. The ruler going up against the American Nightmare. It'll be Oba Femi versus Cody Rhodes. All ego Ethan Page makes his entrance and gets on the mic. He says it doesn't matter when it comes to his North American Championship, and he came to NXT to drink the fountain of youth and soak up as much knowledge as possible. But it turns out he's the only guy asking the questions. Nobody has the ball to ask. Athletes asked how to do the best drop kick, but he asked how to hurt that guy's jaw. Then he worked it out by trial and error, and with any warm body company calls a pro wrestler. But they're all fixated on social media, trying to earn that fingerprint photo with their childhood idol, finger point photo, which he's talking about Triple H pointing at them. They can stay in the back and stare at him while he stands in the ring holding his titles. And now we all have to watch John Cena have his final match in a few days and walk away for good. About a week after he's gone, he'll be a distant memory, leaving a giant void to be filled by a man with a giant ego, by the same man who won the NXT Championship in record time. And then when he couldn't find a path back to it, he won the North American Championship and turned it into the most coveted prize in all of WWE. He says he could have deserved a break, but he kept going and won the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championship, becoming one of one like no one else. There are 3 days that are important to you: the day you're brought into this world, the day you leave it, and the day you realize Ethan Page is the biggest superstar WWE has to offer. Going forward, under his supervision, NXT will be. And then he gets footage out of focus of Tony D'Angelo walking down a bridge, and then we see Tony appear in the ring behind Page. He hits a spine buster and drops some scraps of black cloth on all ego. So, man, let me tell y'all something. Tony D'Angelo is back with a vengeance, and he ain't talking this time. He did a lot of talking when he was the Don, but now he ain't doing a lot of talking. Now he's doing a lot of ass kicking. He took out Javon Evans at NXT Deadline after Javon Evans was celebrating his win, and now on top of that, he comes out and he takes out the NXT North American champion, all ego Ethan Page. So, which Page is right in this interview about what he had to say, though. He is probably one of the better superstars in all of WWE. I don't think there's anybody that wants to debate that, but we'll see what happens. Next up, so Ruka is walking backstage, and so is Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray separately to send us to break. Back from break, Dion Lennox goes into a meeting with Ava Rain, Miles Bourne, Leon Slater, and Joe Hendry. They all bicker, and she says since they were all tied in the Iron Survivor, she's got a match between them to decide a number one contender for the NXT Championship match at New Year's Evil. All ego Ethan Page wanders in to be mad about Tony D'Angelo and yell at everybody. Next up, we got Sol Ruka versus Ren Sinclair. Sol Ruka versus Ren Sinclair. This match was not a long match, but Sol Ruka obviously looked strong in the match. Her and Zarya are back and forth going after each other. It does appear that this team has broken up officially, and Sol Ruka wants a piece of her. Sol Ruka did still pick up the win, even though Zarya tried to cost her the match. Post-match, Sol Ruka chased after Zarya to leave in that segment. And then Fatal Influence made their entrance to send us to break. And then after that, Fatal Influence is in the ring with Ren QCC. And they are going back and forth, talking with them. And like I said, it's setting up their next match. But then we also get Hank and Tank, who give us a travel log about how they went to Pro Wrestling Noah and won the GHC tag titles and whatnot. And then backstage, Hank and Tank are interviewed in kimonos. They talk about how bodacious their trip was, and the Belly Boys are ready to make some noise. OTM roll up, and Tank says they haven't forgotten what they did to them before they left for Japan, and it all adds up to a match getting booked for next week between OTM and Hank and Tank. We will see that match. Can't wait for it. Back from commercial break, and then Blake Monroe rolls up on Ava, sobbing about how her open challenge went. Rain says it was her idea, but Monroe complains about being set up, being embarrassed like a piece of meat, and doesn't get her started on a little blonde banshee, Thea Hail, and that's it. No more open challenges ever. Rain books her in a match against Tia next week and tells her she hopes her arm feels better as Blake storms off. Next up, so Ruka finally catches up with Zarya in the parking lot, and they apologize to each other and talk about how they've never had friends like each other, and they walk off happily. This is really weird between these two. The commentary then hypes up the Saturday night's main event match, and then Javon Evans makes his entrance to send us to break. Back from break, and we get a clip of Stacks winning the TNA International Championship from Steve Macklin at Final Resolution on Friday. Shout out to Stacks for winning that championship. Then we get the final match. It is Javon Evans versus Oba Femi for the men's NXT Championship. This match had probably had about 10 minutes time. And like I said, it was a really a back and forth match. Next thing you know, the big spot in the match came when it looked like Javon Evans had built some momentum and he was getting ready to win the match. But he gets his leg pulled out of the ring by Ricky Saintz. Javon then dives on him, then back inside. Femi turns him inside out with a lariat, a bunch of charging uppercuts, and then he wins with the fall from grace to retain his NXT championship. And the final shot is our thumbnail for this episode, which was Ricky Saintz glaring inside the ring while Javon Evans is holding his chest as the night ends. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Let me know what your favorite part of the match was. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all that you do. Thank you for watching the WeBookit Network. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And thank you guys until next time. Keep those book and pencils sharp and keep on